What's happening, guys? This is JamesBl0nde
and DizzyPW.
It's time to wrap up 2012 and look ahead to the next year of gaming, and hopefully it's a far more monumental year than what we can only describe as the MMO graveyard of 2012.
Thankfully, things are looking fantastic on the horizon, even as early as spring, so James and I got together to decide on what looks the best based on what we know so far. After 2 days straight of arguing in deadlock comparing shooters to sandboxes, we decided we need some criteria to break this down and decide on what really makes one game more anticipated than another.
So based on all kinds of factors like expected player base, press reviews in countries where the titles have already surfaced, overall hype, and our own personal bias, we managed to break it down to a list of 10. Now, we researched a lot of titles, and to be honest, it's pretty tough trying to figure out what makes us more excited about one over the other. And of course, we cut out the pay-to-play stuff so that all the titles competing were on relatively equal grounds. And just because a title isn't on the list doesn't mean we're not looking forward to it.
To kick our list off is a title that no 2013 list should be without: Perfect World Entertainment and Cryptic Studios' upcoming Neverwinter.
The first time I got a chance to see Neverwinter was at PAX Prime, behind closed doors, in Perfect World Entertainment's, I don't know, secret room or whatever. But based on what was shown, it was no wonder that it was shown exclusively. And if it had been set up with a live demo like some of the big titles that were there, it would have definitely been a huge hit. Now, it didn't quite wow us to the extent of some of the other games we were there to see, but it is definitely a customization master's dream title. I mean, this game is set up so that the player has access to the dev tools, allowing them to be able to build their own dungeons, implement quests and scenarios, and even customize the individual monster in the dungeon with crazy detail and color to create a very unique experience.
But these player-created scenarios aren't just there for show. Players can actually level and progress their characters solely by playing character-created scenarios without ever touching the dev-created side of the game, through a system that dynamically rates how challenging a player's dungeon is and assigns awards and recommended levels players should be before tackling them. With detailed character classes, each with unique playstyles, Neverwinter is really paving its own path to leave a lasting mark on the industry. And with years and years of D&D lore back in this title, we expect nothing but great things from such a unique game.
Yeah, it should be interesting on seeing how detailed some of these player-created dungeons can get. Next up on our list is one we haven't heard much about this past year, but you'll be glad we reminded you. Number 9 is Swordsman Online.
Perfect World Entertainment has recently backed away from their Asian influence titles to instead focus on third-party blockbusters like Raiders and Neverwinter. However, Swordsman Online has been slinking along in the shadows undetected by most for all this time, and if they hadn't randomly revealed it to me at E3 2010 when I was attending as a guest, we might not have even known to include it on our list. But even back then, what I saw had the potential to surpass Age of Wushu as the martial arts combat MMO of 2013. Swordsman Online does this by capitalizing on the power of the Angelica 3 engine, China's first next-generation 3D weapon against the Korean developers, to create visceral action-packed combat on par with what we've all come to expect from arcade fighting titles, but in a real-time online environment.
Well, not only that, but just like in standard fighting games like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, strategy will be just as important of a factor as reaction times. And they've even thrown in a 2.5D isometric view in addition to the standard over-the-shoulder 3D view to cater to the wider audience more accustomed to like the Diablo-style titles or whatever. All of this would be enough to get it included on our list, but the promise of an epic storyline based on the famous Chinese novel that ties into skill acquisition really sets it above Neverwinter in our book as PWE's best looking game in 2013. This next game looks to change free-to-play FPS titles to show that they can truly be just as impressive as pay-to-play shooters. Number 8 on the list is Warface.
Ask most gamers today to name Trion's 2013 titles, and they'll tell you End of Nations or Defiance. But what if they had something incredibly kick-ass up their sleeves involving the CryEngine 3, a social online FPS, and here's the kicker, also free-to-play? Welcome to Warface, a self-proclaimed free-to-play social shooter that's going to knock you out of your chair in 2013. With 4 classes including the Engineer, Medic, Sniper, and Rifleman previewed in previous trailers, an unheard-of focus on ever-expanding co-op campaign, this title is going to be a godsend to everyone from competitive esports hopefuls to casuals just seeking to have fun hanging out and chatting with their friends.
Well, all I can say is the graphics and the physics in this game are mind-blasting. Anything can actually blow your mind. This is mind-blasting. Seeing soldiers get thrown around from explosions and the fluid mechanics of all the weapons are just basic examples of what the CryEngine 3 puts into the game. Plus, the game has already launched in Russia and China with huge success, which will provide plenty of funding in preparation of launching in the West without all the bugs and imbalances. 2012 may have been the year of the online shooter, but from what we can see here with Warface, it'll be the daddy of them all. But if you're waiting for a special shooter, the kind that lets the power of the players reveal the persistent world around them, then you're waiting for Firefall at number 7.
Recently, it's been a constant complaint among tired, jaded veteran MMO players that MMORPGs are just too point-and-click based nowadays, that they just didn't bring that fast-paced, skill-based first-person shooter system into the fold. Well, the group at Red 5 Studios thought in reverse, and did some reverse engineering, it seems, over the period of many years to have finally built a first-person shooter transferred into an MMORPG environment with Firefall.
I want to think in reverse. In my opinion, I think Firefall is on its way to making it big by seamlessly combining the elements that succeeded in FPS titles with the MMORPG features that a completely separate player base can relate to. The game's art style and story are also genuine, enough to have their own manga. And not to mention the world that evolves by opening new PvE content as players work together to push back its melding. The PvE is some of the most wicked renditions of public questing we've seen in a game, and the PvP is truly worthy of the esports it's going for. Honestly, Firefall had the power to snag quite a few of our 2012 best ofs, if not for its perfectionist dev teams that keep the game in internal closed beta until they deem it good and ready. But if you haven't experienced this game, 20 minutes in the battle frame and you'll understand why this game keeps huge lines behind dozens of demo monitors at every convention they show up at.
NCSoft's Team Bloodlust brings us our next epic title of 2013.
Blade and Soul, yeah, that's it. Well, needless to say, these guys take sex sells to heart, with Hyung Tae Kim, one of Korea's most famous gaming and manga artists, leading the charge as their celebrity game director. Blade and Soul is directly competing for the same market as Swordsman Online, but I think it completely beats it out with insanely fluid combat animations, a fully fleshed out and challenging huge PvE world, 4 races and 6 non-gender locked classes. I'm almost willing to bet that this game is the reason NCSoft decided to drop Lineage 3's development.
And any title that was picked up by NCSoft over the game that eventually evolved to become Terra has some real power behind its hype. So why did we rank it higher than Swordsman? Actual performance. This game is stringing in 230,000 simultaneous players at a time in Korea, trumping giants like Diablo 3 and even League of Legends. With that kind of success comes serious dev funding and massive updates, and Blade and Soul is set to do just that, with its first massive update going live earlier this week and a 7-step plan for 2013 to keep this game fresh well into the future. Also, they will not be censoring any of their artwork and sticking with their original PvE storyline, unlike a certain group who claim to be true MMO foes did in 2012. Godspeed to Blood and Soul Online. ZeniMax is set to make a lot of fanboys happy in 2013 with their release of Elder Scrolls Online.
Well, the Elder Scrolls series needs no introduction. Focusing on ultimate freedom, they push the genre to the limits generation after generation with top-of-the-line graphics, insanely large worlds, and so much content that it cost many a gamer their entire social life just trying to explore. Back in 2011, the players demanded 2 things from the series: dragons and multiplayer. Skyrim brought the dragons, but the multiplayer request went unanswered until the massive E3 explosive reveal. Set on carrying on the same dynamic world with a top-of-the-line crafting system that'll make any Skyrim fan weep for joy, 3 warring factions that'll bring nostalgia to Dark Age of Camelot junkies, and the recreation of the infamous world brought to life through the countless past Elder Scrolls games should be enough to have even casual fans of the series turning heads. But of course, it's the good old-fashioned learn what you use and master everything you choose dynamic of the game that's going to have the fans of character customization sinking endless hours into the Elder Scrolls franchise all over again come 2013. Now, if Elder Scrolls Online fails to provide the ultimate freedom, well then you should check out ArcheAge at number 4.
With WoW clones shutting down in droves in 2012, it's no surprise that the generic anime titles that bring no innovation are beginning to dry up. That is generally leaving the future open to only massive AAA games, but there's an ever-growing population of gamers that are just sick of these. Of course, this leaves the greatest opportunity yet for indie dev sandbox makers to strike. And what if there was one indie dev sandbox maker that was anything but indie, with massive funding and a huge dev team behind it? A sandbox that let you build towns, vehicles, ships, and challenge epic creatures or even wage war dynamically as one player-created faction against another. Enter ArcheAge, a title set to push the sandbox genre out from the shadows to return to its former glory from the pre-WoW era. ArcheAge will do it all with beautiful CryEngine graphics, amazing spell animations that have real impact on the environment, in a world where the story is truly what the players make of it.
I'm excited to see more and more MMORPGs using the detail-oriented CryEngine 3. If a game uses it, that alone to me is a reason to look forward to that game.
RuneWaker is going hard in 2013 with the launch of their second title, Dragon's Prophet.
Both Sony Online Entertainment in the US and Infernum in Europe are known for putting their brand name on the line for some pretty unique titles like Wizardry, Brick Force, and even, PlanetSide 2, for example. However, they both proved their excellent taste when signing early deals with RuneWaker's second MMORPG title, Dragon's Prophet. This one's going to be loved by thinkers, builders, collectors, and organizers alike. Thinkers will love searching and choosing from over 300 dragons, each carrying various traits that may make them more useful as a mount. Incredibly speedy on land, tankier, offering more DPS, whether it's AoE or localized, and even support dragons. Then they can customize their dragons in the Dragon's Lair to give it custom skills and raise it from tiny to mighty. Pokemon lovers be warned, addiction incoming. Collectors will easily share this love, as well as join builders in the massive, fully customizable frontier where players can pay rent to purchase property, build housing structures, fill them with tons of interactive furniture and other crafting items, and even get creative and stack up crazy items to build playgrounds and jump quests.
Of course, it's where these two worlds combine that will have the organizers and guild leaders all fired up to start preparing for war. Players can purchase large tracts of lands to create feudal societies housing hundreds, and enforce their own tax codes and even enlist armies in exchange for protection. Protection from what, you might ask? Monster invasions and even other factions of players looking to seize your land, castles, and other items for themselves. Frontier is a wild place, and only the focus and tactical need apply. All this will be formed around a unique combat system that will allow players to fight on Dragonback or with their dragons alongside them with a unique auto-target system and combo system. What that means is anyone's guess at this point, but if it turns out anything like the trailers look, our excitement is well placed, landing this gem at number 3.
The next title on the list caught me by surprise, but still managed to be our best of show at last year's PAX Prime. At number 2, Phantasy Star Online 2.
You may have noticed up till now our 2013 list is woefully absent of brawler-type games like C9. Well, for the most part, brawlers have done it all, and it's really hard to innovate past the level achieved by C9. But then Japan, Sega specifically, came out of nowhere to let the world know that they can hang with Korea, China, and the rest of the world in the free-to-play MMO market by unleashing a revamp of one of their older series, Phantasy Star. So what does PSO2 bring that makes it so special? Fans of anime, whether it be mechs or titles more on the cutesy side, are going to adore the insanely detailed character creation process on this one. Whether you like tweaking minute details like your eyebrows, or just want a generic body style in an instant to jump straight into the game, Phantasy Star Online 2 offers the tools to bring anyone's character to life. And beyond that, even more armor pieces and accessories are waiting to be found in-game to really give each avatar a unique feel.
Just like some of the other games on the list, the combat is fluid. However, PSO2 had just enough mix of auto-aiming and character twitch reaction to create an experience that both casual and hardcore gamers can jump into. Each time you run a mission, gameplay can be slightly different, with random events altering the outcomes and changing the types of monsters you might run into. The character abilities can be customized via skill trees as well as photon discs, and there are far more abilities than any one character can unlock, making the in-game characters unique even among the same class. The characters are also able to swap between various weapons on the fly to make the combat insanely frantic and fun, and monsters have fully interactive character mapping, allowing players to go all out God of War style and even jump on the back of the larger enemies to find the weak points. Honestly, all this game is missing from being perfect is some of the more typical MMORPG social elements, but hey, what would the action junkies that can't stand all that extra stuff have to wait for? This next and final game we've actually been anticipating for 2 years now. Our number 1 most anticipated game of 2013 is Wildstar.
Wildstar is a title that's been flying under the radar since its final major appearance in a secret press booth on the 6th floor of PAX Prime 2011. However, I still dream of getting hands-on time with this title 2 years later after sitting through their hour-long presentation explaining why this wasn't just your simple cel-shaded sci-fi MMORPG with big titty bunny girls. Wildstar does so many things, but at its core it's striving for one particular. Bring back those childhood memories of console platforming titles like Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong 64, and bring it into an online environment to share with your friends. It offers various paths unrelated to your actual class skills, such as the Settler, for those that like to build up their online worlds, Explorers, for those who go the extra length to find the unseen mysteries of their game, Soldiers, who can't get enough action and want to take charge of leading their fellow players into public quest battles, and Scientists, who have an eye for seeing the unusual, can spot something strange where others skim past seeing only the mundane. This, of course, is not just fluff, but actually ties directly into a dynamic quest system that I feel has the potential to even put Guild Wars 2's system to shame. Not that NCSoft will be losing any sleep, considering they hold publishing rights on both titles.
And if this wasn't enough to keep things interesting, just like old platformers, you'll be facing monsters with incredibly varied and oftentimes comical tells that reveal their next attack, constantly forcing players to adjust their current playstyle and actively dodge or interrupt their enemies to keep the upper hand. Quirky and humorous, fully voice-acted quests update while out in the field, keeping you from having to go back to town for pointless downtime, and each of the zones forces you to take on solving the local issues before you can unlock and earn the right to travel to the next region of the game, rather than the typical MMORPG arbitrary level restrictions. And of course you can expect platforming elements like crystals that let you skyrocket into the air, avalanches, and even bees spitting honey on you to keep you constantly testing your Twitch reactions to advance to the next location. All of this in fully customizable player housing nets Wildstar as our most anticipated game of 2013. Well guys, that's going to wrap up our list of highly anticipated games for 2013. Well, free-to-play games anyway. Feel free to let us know what games are on your list of games to play. All I can say is that I'm really excited to cover all of these games on the list, plus more, but for now, that's going to be it for me. I'm JamesBl0nde. See you out there, gamers.